The early 20th century was a time of great change and uncertainty in Europe. The great powers of Europe, including Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, France, and Great Britain, were engaged in a dangerous game of alliances and military buildup. Each nation sought to protect its interests and expand its power. However, this web of alliances meant that a conflict between any two nations could quickly escalate into a wider war. Tensions were particularly high in the Balkans, a region known as the powder keg of Europe. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, a sprawling and diverse empire, controlled much of the region. Many different ethnic groups lived within its borders, and some, like the Serbs, desired independence. Nationalism, the desire for self-rule, was a powerful force, and it threatened to tear the Austro-Hungarian Empire apart. In the years leading up to the war, there were a number of crises that brought Europe to the brink of conflict. The Moroccan crises of 1905 and 1911 saw Germany and France nearly come to blows over control of Morocco. The Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913 further destabilized the region and increased tensions between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. Amidst this backdrop of suspicion and animosity, events unfolded that would plunge the world into the abyss of World War I. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie, were on an official visit to Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. Bosnia was a province of Austria-Hungary, but it had a large Serbian population. Many Serbs resented Austro-Hungarian rule and yearned to join the independent nation of Serbia. A group of Serbian nationalists, known as the Black Hand, saw the Archduke's visit as an opportunity to strike a blow for Serbian freedom. As the Archduke's motorcade drove through the streets of Sarajevo, a Black Hand member, Gavrilo Princip, fired 2 shots. Both shots found their mark, fatally wounding the Archduke and his wife. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand sent shockwaves across Europe. Austria-Hungary, outraged by the assassination, blamed Serbia for the attack and issued an ultimatum demanding satisfaction. The ultimatum contained a number of harsh demands, including Serbian cooperation in an Austro-Hungarian investigation into the assassination. Serbia, backed by Russia, attempted to negotiate some of the terms of the ultimatum, but Austria-Hungary was determined to punish Serbia. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, marking the beginning of World War I. Within days, the complex web of alliances that had been woven in the preceding decades came into play. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia, which had mobilized its army in support of Serbia. Germany then declared war on France, Russia's ally. Germany's war plans called for a swift attack on France through neutral Belgium. This plan, known as the Schlieffen Plan, aimed to knock France out of the war quickly before turning its full attention to Russia. However, Great Britain, outraged by Germany's violation of Belgian neutrality, declared war on Germany on August 4, 1914. World War I had begun. The Central Powers, consisting primarily of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, found themselves pitted against the Allied powers led by Great Britain, France, Russia, and eventually Italy. The world watched in disbelief as Europe, seemingly at the pinnacle of progress and civilization, descended into a maelstrom of violence. The early months of the war were characterized by mobile warfare as both sides attempted to gain the upper hand. However, the invention of the machine gun, along with other deadly weapons, made it nearly impossible for either side to achieve a decisive breakthrough. By the end of 1914, the war on the Western Front had devolved into a bloody stalemate. Both sides dug elaborate trench systems that stretched for hundreds of miles across France and Belgium. These trenches, protected by barbed wire, machine guns and artillery, became a nightmarish world of mud, blood and death. Soldiers on both sides endured horrific conditions, living in constant fear of enemy attack, disease and the ever-present shelling. Life in the trenches was a test of human endurance. Soldiers were exposed to the elements, with little protection from the rain, snow and freezing temperatures of winter. Rats, lice and other vermin were constant companions, spreading disease among the men. The stench of death, both human and animal, permeated the air. Section 5: Technological Advancements, New Horrors. World War I witnessed an unprecedented escalation in the technology of warfare. New weapons, more deadly and destructive than anything seen before, were unleashed on the battlefield. The machine gun, already mentioned, transformed warfare, making offensive maneuvers incredibly costly in terms of human life. Artillery, too, became increasingly powerful and accurate, capable of raining down shells on enemy positions from miles away. Perhaps the most terrifying new weapon of World War I was poison gas. First used by the Germans in 1915, poison gas such as chlorine and mustard gas could inflict agonizing death on a massive scale. Soldiers, caught without gas masks, faced a horrific death, their lungs burning, their skin blistered. The use of poison gas shocked the world and became a symbol of the brutality and inhumanity of modern warfare. Section 6. Leaders in wartime hope and despair. World War I was a global conflict, but it was ultimately directed by a handful of leaders. On the side of the Allies, key figures included British Prime Minister David Lloyd George, French Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau, and of course American President Woodrow Wilson, who entered the war in 1917. For the Central Powers, Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany and Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria-Hungary played pivotal roles. These leaders faced immense pressure to guide their nations through the most devastating war the world had ever seen. They had to make difficult decisions, sending millions of young men to their deaths. They grappled with the economic and social consequences of total war, and as the war dragged on, they faced growing opposition from those who questioned the war's purpose and cost. Section 7, 1917, America enters the fray. For the first 3 years of the war, the United States remained neutral, though it provided material support to the Allies. However, a number of factors, including Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare, which resulted in the sinking of American merchant ships, and the Zimmermann telegram, a secret German diplomatic cable intercepted by the British that proposed an alliance between Germany and Mexico against the United States, pushed America closer to war. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany, entering the conflict on the side of the Allies. The entry of the United States into the war, with its vast industrial resources and manpower, tipped the balance of power in favor of the Allies. American soldiers, known as doughboys, began arriving in Europe in large numbers in 1918, bolstering Allied morale and providing much-needed reinforcements. Section 8. The armistice silence falls. By the fall of 1918, after more than 4 years of horrific warfare, both sides were exhausted. Millions had died, and the economies of Europe were in ruins. Germany, facing mounting casualties and dwindling resources, realized that victory was impossible. On November 11, 1918, at 11 o'clock in the morning, an armistice or ceasefire went into effect. The guns fell silent. The Great War, the war to end all wars, was over. But the cost of victory was immense. Millions lay dead, victims of the deadliest conflict in human history. Entire cities and landscapes were devastated. The world was forever changed. Section 9, the Treaty of Versailles, an imperfect peace. In January 1919, representatives from the victorious Allied powers met in Paris to hammer out the terms of peace. The Treaty of Versailles, signed on June 28, 1919, officially ended the war. However, the treaty, particularly its harsh treatment of Germany, sowed the seeds of future conflict. The treaty blamed Germany for the war and imposed crippling reparations payments on the defeated nation. Germany was forced to cede territory and disarm. The Austro-Hungarian, Russian and Ottoman empires were dissolved and new nations were created. The Treaty of Versailles, while intended to prevent future wars, ultimately failed to address the underlying causes of World War I. The treaty left Germany humiliated and resentful, creating fertile ground for the rise of extremism and nationalism in the years to come. The world would learn in the decades that followed that the peace achieved at Versailles was at best an imperfect peace.